Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the November 10th, 2020 meeting of the Rotterdam Town Board. Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christo,
Present.
Mr. Gittarelli.
Present.
He can hardly hear you, Joe. Mrs. Miller Herrera,
Present.
Mr. Signor,
Present.
and Mr. Thomasone.
Present.
5 present.
Okay, Steve, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
Yes, I will. I pledge allegiance to
Allegiance to the
the
flag.
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Okay, so Steve, you want to mention the Veterans Day services, please?
Sure, I can do it now. Yes, tomorrow at 2:30, we will be having our annual, I believe, the 61st annual Veterans Day services and memorial. And obviously, the public is welcome. I do note that this year we will not be having a public speaker for obvious reasons. And while I anticipate the weather to be very good, just be aware that should the weather become inclement, COVID is going to prohibit us from being able to go inside. But I'm very optimistic we're going to have great weather. So please, everybody come out and participate in the celebration.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Diane, you want to mention?
Sure. I just like everybody to know that we have the Toys for Tots box at the town clerk's office. And if you could just call the office, we'd be more than happy to make an appointment and have you bring it. It's 518-355-7575, extension 352, between 8:30 and 4:30, and it's an unwrapped toy. Thank you.
Very good. And now what I'm going to do is read a proclamation that we have honoring small businesses within the town of Rotterdam and actually nationally, because it mentions a few stats which I found interesting. So here we go. So the proclamation reads, whereas the government of Rotterdam, New York celebrates our upwards of 1,000 local small businesses and the contributions they make to our local economy and community. According to the U.S. Small Business Administration, there are 30.7 million small businesses in the United States. They represent 99.7% of all firms with paid employees in the United States. And they are responsible for 64.9. I mean, the point of, let's call it 65% of net new jobs created from the year 2000 to 2018. And whereas small businesses employ 47.3% of the employees in the private sector in the U.S., 62% of U.S. small businesses reported that they need to see consumer spending return to pre-COVID levels by the end of 2020 in order to just stay in business. 65% of U.S. small business owners said it would be most helpful to their businesses to have their regulars return and start making purchases again. And 3/4 of U.S. consumers are currently looking for ways to shop small, which is a registered trademark, and support their community. Whereas 96% of consumers who shopped on Small Business Saturday agree that shopping at small independently owned businesses supports their commitment to making purchases that have a positive social, economic, and environmental impact. And 97% of consumers who shopped on Small Business Saturday agree that small businesses are essential to their community. And whereas 95% of consumers who shopped on Small Business Saturday reported the day makes them want to shop or eat at small. I love this part. It makes them want to shop or eat at small independently owned businesses all year long, not just during the holiday season. 95%. And whereas Rotterdam, New York supports our local businesses that create jobs, boost our local economy, and preserve our communities. And whereas advocacy groups, as well as public and private organizations across the country, have endorsed the Saturday after Thanksgiving as Small Business Saturday. Now, therefore, I, Steve Thomasone, Supervisor of the Town of Rotterdam, on behalf of the board, do hereby proclaim Saturday, November 28th, 2020, as Small Business Saturday, and urge the residents of our community and communities across the country to support small businesses and merchants on Small Business Saturday and throughout the year. So this will be available. We'll get this online too. We did send it off, and I think it's important for us to recognize that small businesses is what, obviously big businesses we're dependent on them too, but small businesses in our own communities, our friends, our families, our neighbors, they're the ones that we need to make sure we continue to support. That's what helps our community grow, and we see that from one end of the town to the other. So, and for those people who are out there working, especially during these times, I wish you all the best, and I know the board does too. We talk about small business a lot, and particularly since a couple of our board members are small business owners, and the rest of us do go out there and patronize our businesses in our community. So thank you very much. All right, so our first public hearing and only public hearing this evening was Marco. Would you please read the public hearing?
Sure. To hear comments by the public both in favor and against the town board's 2020 preliminary budget as compiled, and both for and against any items contained therein. The town board's 2020 preliminary budget shall be available for public inspection in the office of the town clerk Monday through Friday, 8:30 a.m. through 4:30 p.m. by appointment due to the ongoing state of emergency as a result of the pandemic, and through the Town of Rotterdam website, www.rotterdamny.org, around the clock beginning October 29th, 2020. In 2021, the salary of each town board member shall be $10,000. The salary of the town supervisor will be $13,000. The salary of the superintendent of highway is $69,416.11, and the salary of the town clerk shall be $58,165.90.
Okay, so just so everyone knows, the reason that these particular positions are disclosed is that that's what the law tells us to do. And you can go online and you can see it here in this document. If you have gone on to our website and opened up the budget, you'll be able to see the salaries of everyone involved. Some of them you have to go through a few different lines in order to, if you will, add them up, because we have to allocate certain positions across different departments and different districts, if you will, in order to effectively enumerate what it is those individuals are doing across all the lines of business within the town. So at this time, does anyone like to be heard on the public hearing? Anyone on the phone here? There's couple of phone numbers here. I just see the last three numbers 716 and last three numbers 956. Is there any either of you like to be heard? If you don't mind unmuting yourself. And
I asked both people to unmute themselves, but I believe that they're probably here for the first resolution that you're voting on.
oh, okay, all right, okay, that's fine, that's good. All right, and so, Mr. Lamora, did you want to speak on the budget? And then I think the board, what we'll do is we'll probably have some discussion under the resolution and hold our discussions then. If we could, Mr. Lamora, go ahead.
Yes, I got the readout from our comptroller's office, what's going to be allocated for employees here at the highway department. Starting by time we have 5 employees retiring come this December, I see there's only 2 replacements coming. We're now at 29 employees here at the highway department, which is a very minimum account for employees for, just for example, for our snow plowing, which is we're going to be entering to let everybody know when we have 12 snowplow routes, you need 24 bodies just to fill them trucks. You need a loader operator. We have 3 mechanics. One usually runs one of the small plow trucks when needed. We have one that does the towing and repair of the trucks out in the field. A lot of times there's one of the mechanics, most times, is backing up for one of the employees that either are out on cop or possibly sick, couldn't make it into work for some reason, and a senior crew leader. And that's with 29 total minimum. That's if everybody comes in, we can get all the plow routes out. Every year, there's always seems to be a problem because last year, like we had a gentleman broke his ankle coming into work November during our first snowstorm. He was out on comp all year. That's where one of the mechanics had to fulfill that wingman. But with 29 coming in, that's getting all of our plow trucks out with 29 total minimum people. If I don't see these people, 29 people staffed here at this highway department, we will lose plow routes. We won't be able to go out and get all the streets done in a fashionable manner like we have been doing, well, anyway, since I've gotten here as highway superintendent. And without doing so, we're jeopardizing the safety of our residents and the town highway employees, because once we're down a route or two, that extends the time of snow plowing, because we have to have trucks when they finish their routes back up, going to the routes that they're not used to doing, and it ends up taking a longer time to do so. And just so everybody knows, when we are out plowing and doing with 12 trucks out, and just in a typical snowstorm of 3 to 4 inches alone takes 3.5 hours to get done. And a 12-inch snowstorm, you're going to double to triple that. And bigger snowstorms, there's been times, 12 to 18 inches that we've worked 24 hours straight around the clock. And that's tough on us guys. Dropping down our staffing to 26 is definitely going to hurt us, especially if we have somebody out or sick. The supervisor just said to me, maybe we could pull from a pool from the DPW. I've talked to Matt Lupi from the water department, asked him if that was going to be possible. And he said to me, you know how that works, Larry, because we've tried that in the past. Your winter time is, most times you probably get most of your water breaks. And at one time when the water department was working out of the highway department here, I do remember several times being on a water main break, particularly one in Colonial Manor, and finishing at 1 in the morning and looking up the sky and the snow starts falling, and knowing I have to call guys back in 2-3 hours to start plowing. It gets to be too much when trying to combine the DPW with the water department, when the DPW themselves only have 3-4 bodies themselves. And if they work 24 hours on fixing their water main breaks or doing the water main break while we are out plowing, they're not going to be able to give us people.
Okay, Larry, anything else that you have?
Yes.
Because I don't want to belabor in case we have others that want to speak here, in case somebody comes into the meeting.
Well, I'm trying to figure out why you think we can reduce down to 26 come January 1st, have 5 leave and only put 2 back in. And
I'll be happy. There's actually 3 back in, but that's not. But here's what we'll do. I'm going to withhold my comments until the resolution, because we got to get through these resolutions first.
Well, then
Is there anything else, Larry? Is there anything else you want to add before we get to that resolution piece and start discussing it as a board? I think your point. I think we hear you loud and clear on the public safety and on the manpower thing. I'm going to have some questions as I've discussed this with both Larry and every board member when we get to that. But I just want to make sure Larry's had enough time to make his case.
Yes, well, that's just it. I mean, in prior budgets, I've gone through several years before that we've had in this department 32 employees in the past of highway department. Like I looked up 2011 adopted budget. We had 32 employees here at the highway. And then since years gone by, we have lost employees. We've gone down to 29 right now we're standing at, which puts us at a minimum of getting all our plow trucks out. And taking away some of these employees, well, you're going to put these drivers in jeopardy of working too many hours overtime. And I don't want to see anybody get hurt. I don't want to see anything happen to any residents or people. These drivers, when they're out there for 3-4 hours at a time, just doing a single route for a one time alone, I mean, it is stressful. You don't understand when you're out there, when you're watching for kids in the streets, they're not at school sometimes, or gentlemen are out there snow blowing their driveways. They don't hear the plow trucks coming. And if we don't stay fashionably on time and the snow builds up too much on us, next thing you know, you got cars parked in the street because they can't get down the street. They're stuck in the streets, and then our plow trucks can't get down the streets. We always try to beat the school buses to get, so I was safe for the schools when it is a large storm. Yes, I know they do have snow days, but there are times when there is only 2-3 inches and the schools are still working. We like to be ahead of them buses and not falling behind by losing routes. Also, with that being said, with the highway department, I mean, we do need a full-time secretary here. I've looked at previous budgets where there was always a full-time account clerk and clerical part-time in previous years. I really would like to see we get a full-time account clerk here also. And I would like to keep the staffing here at 29 people minimum, just to cover for our plowing. In the summertime, 29 minimum, a lot of times is not even enough. But we've been able to work through it this past year. I know things are tough because we've had the COVID, we had a lot of problems, but for the public safety, I mean, when the police department calls me 95% of the time, we're always usually en route for starting to take care of the streets. Well, if we don't get the streets done, we're not going to get the police officers, the fire departments out on the streets to be able to get to the residents. And I hate to have a scenario where we're down a couple plow routes and we can't get into some place like the Colonial Manor or Becker's Cross or any development for that matter, and have trouble getting ambulances or police departments down the road to service people for their needs. I think it's very important. We get 29 full-time bodies here at this highway department throughout the year. Past years, I've asked for more employees. I haven't gotten them, but with the 29 minimum, I'm sure we can make it work. Because even with 29 minimum, we're always short a plow route one way or another due to somebody being out with comp or sick that day. And just like what the COVID is now, when people come in, I mean, if I have an employee comes in that looks like he's sick or has any, sweating or any problems, we have to send them home. I can't put them in the truck with the one person. So, that's going to be a scenario because wintertime, you do have cold and flu seasons and people do get sick. I mean, at most generally times, last year's schedule, I looked up how many guys all came on their emergencies. 99%, the 1% was all last season with one of the employees who was with a broken ankle. And we were able to cover that by using one of the mechanics or someone available to cover that route. But as the highway superintendent, I really think we have to look at this and we need 29 total minimum employees here. I mean, even in this budget here, I'm seeing you're eliminating a senior working crew leader, my senior road maintenance supervisors retiring in end of March or beginning of April. I see no funding for replacement of him either. How am I supposed to operate without any foremans or bosses here?
So I think we heard you. I think we heard you, Mr. Lamora, pretty well here. And I don't mean to cut you short, but if we could move on to our meeting and we'll have our discussion, the board will have their discussion under the resolution. And I will just put it out there that if you want to remain on during the meeting here, if a board member has a question that they could, if you would, answer them.
Okay.
Question to direct at you, okay?
Thank you, Larry.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, is there anyone else under public hearing this evening that would like to be heard? On public hearing one having to do with our budget for 2021. Anyone else that would like to be heard on public hearing one this evening? Anyone else that would like to be heard on public hearing one this evening? Okay, I'll declare public hearing one closed at this time and we'll move into our resolutions. First resolution, got to have public comment privilege of the floor for any agenda item. Does anyone want to be heard on public comment privilege of the floor this evening for any agenda item? Any of the resolutions before us? Okay, all right, so let's move into our first resolution. Ms. Marco, would you please read the first resolution?
A resolution appointing and promoting Michael Alterdice to Sergeant Second.
Thank you. May I have a motion, please?
Mr. Supervisor, I'll make the motion.
Okay, motion by Mr. Christou. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Signor. Okay, anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christou,
Yes.
Mr. Gitterelli,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera,
yes,
Mr. Signor,
Yes.
and Mr. Tomazone.
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, now do we have
Chief
Mr.
is on the
Alderdice
call. I
and Chief?
asked the other
Yeah,
individual to unmute themselves. Yeah.
Sure.
Yes, Steve, I'm here.
Oh, good evening. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good, good.
Congratulations, Sarge.
Congratulations,
Thank you,
Sergeant.
everyone.
So,
Thank you very much.
are you going to be sworn in right now, or are you and the chief going to do it tomorrow?
I
We're on
think
tomorrow.
it's, I think it was up to the chief.
Okay.
Be a nice Veterans Day
We're gonna
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could, if you and the chief want to get suited up, come over to town hall. No, but
Okay.
go ahead and make sure you do that, because obviously we're in different times here. I'm sorry that we couldn't do this in person to recognize your promotion. And I know I speak on behalf of the board when I say that we wish you all the best, and in particular stay safe during these times. And the PD is blessed to have you working over there. So thank you very much for your tenure as an officer, and in particular now your tenure in the future as a sergeant. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Congratulations again.
Yes. Okay, next resolution, Ms. Marco.
A resolution adopting the annual budget of the town of Rotterdam for the fiscal year 2021.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
Mr. Supervisor, how does this work? If we decide to table this pending changes, are we locked in if someone makes the motion?
So,
If I may. Yeah, so you're gonna make a motion and that motion allows you to consider it. I think that you also can subsequently amend the motion, right? And so the consideration portion would be when the supervisor calls for discussion on the motion. So you could subsequently either table the motion, move to the resolution regarding the amendments that I have prepared for you, discuss the spreadsheet that was circulated. You could come to a decision about that, adopt that resolution, and then subsequently move back to this item that you're about to have a discussion on.
So in other words, council, just to be clear, if we come to agreement on all these, some budget adjustments that each board member has, we can amend the resolution and get it done today, possibly.
That's why I requested the changes today from each individual board member.
Right.
Correct.
Some of them are going to warrant discussion, so I'm curious if we'll be able to get it all done. Hopefully we can.
well, let me
Supervisor, I'll second the motion.
wait.
I'll
We
make,
didn't have a motion, but wait, on the question, I would like to say something before we make a motion as well. All right, let's, so here's the thing.
shall we do the motion in a second first, Mr. Supervisor?
I think so. I'm thinking this through right now, and then we have to, the problem is that if we vote, so let's just be clear on something. Let's say that that it doesn't pass, just for the sake of argument. And you still can't come to a resolution the board can't come to an agreement if we have another meeting, say Monday night, to entertain the budget and pass it then. What happens is the budget as it stands becomes budget for 2021. Does that make sense? So if we can't agree on any changes, let's just say. For the
I'm aware of that, correct. I make the motion.
Okay, motion by Mr. Christou. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Ms. Miller Herrera. Now, on the question, if we go through and we make budget changes, you understand that here's I got a lot of things to say, but here's my overall fear. My overall fear is that when I say you, that the town ends up, going more into fund balances, which is, I do not recommend doing that because of where we are. And more importantly, the tax rates will change if you can't come to an agreement on the use of fund balance. Your tax rates could put you in a position where you exceed the tax cap, and that's a whole other problem. Right now, the way this budget stands, we are under the tax cap by about $50,000, roughly. I'm going to call it $50,000. We're under the tax cap. Well, and if you recall last year when we prepared the 2020 budget in 2019, the board utilized much more fund balance and tried to keep those tax rates as level as possible. And what happens now is between the changes in assessments, which our assessments have increased, thankfully, but with that, and at the same time, the use of some fund balance, actually a lot of fund balance across all the different appropriations, and also the expense, if you will, or our budget where it is right now, making any changes, you could put us in a precarious position with our tax cap. So that's where, that's not where we want to be. In one of there's a lot of things that Mr. Lamora said, and frankly, I take umbrage to the the thought that somehow I want to jeopardize public safety, which is absolutely a non-starter for me. The idea that so for over, and I'll just say a few things here, that for over a year, maybe even some 2 years, people are going to retire, that we as a body and individuals in their own departments who run those departments, regardless of where they are, that it is their duty to ensure that people are trained and cross-trained. We are in a position where we have a lot of employee buyouts because people are retiring. Thankfully, those numbers, those dollars, and I don't say thankfully that they can enjoy themselves and enjoy retirement. And pushing out forward in 2022, I think we're going to see some definite positive results from that. But this year and next year, because of buyouts and other costs, we're not going to see that quote unquote savings yet. Also, when it comes to all the things that we have planned, we know we need a new highway garage to make it safe for people to work on our vehicles, on those, the snow plows that weigh God knows how many tons. We have no lifts in our garage. That all those things are not; those don't come from nothing. That costs money, and we need money for debt service moving forward. We have to start allocating or building that reserve, if you will, so that we don't encumber current and future taxpayers for things beyond, again, the tax cap. So, we want a new building. We know we need the salt storage shed. We've been very lucky. The board has worked together to set money aside for a lot of different expenses and projects. And so we have funds set aside for purchases of property and some other things, equipment and so on. So that's all good. But when we know we've talked about money for paving and drainage and other projects, that money has to come from somewhere, whether it's debt service and or expense within that year, that budget year. We can't continue to rely upon, frankly, these circumstances that this might happen tomorrow or that might happen next week or next month. We have to better utilize, and it's up to us as a board and others, department heads, elected and appointed, to work together to make sure that we are better utilizing our labor and better utilizing our equipment. It makes no sense for us to have a piece of equipment sitting at the water sewer department and need the same exact piece of equipment sitting at the highway garage, and we can't, they can't use them together or whatever. There's just a lot of these things. Now, don't misunderstand me. There is a lot of cross utilization. There is some collaboration and cooperation, but not enough. In other communities around us, they have a Department of Public Works that operates together. We don't have that here. We have and I'm not going to go into every single detail because frankly, I think that when we do that, I think we're losing the overall picture here. And that is this, is that when we got together as a board initially a few years ago, frankly, before Mr. Guidarelli and Mr. Signor came on, we recognized that we needed to have a water sewer maintenance department separate and distinct from the highway department. We did that. We've built that department up. We now have staff there. We have DPW laborers. We have others. It doesn't mean that these people who have CDLs can't run a plow or be trained to run a plow. It doesn't mean that these people can't work together. And that's what I want. I want you all to work together. As far as the idea that we're 5 people are retiring, you have to replace 5. I disagree with that. I also think that along those lines, what happens is when you have vacancies within the labor pool, so what's going to happen? You're going to have, you predict a snowfall in January, February, or March. You're just getting new people in. You're going to train them now. We should have been doing that. The highway department should have been doing that for months now. With your
How was I going to
labor.
do that?
Let me finish. This is on the question, Mr. Lamoro. You just let me finish. So I've been training people to utilize equipment to train them on it. I think that's all. It could have even been some of it done last year, frankly. So what I'm getting at is that I think we need to do much more in ensuring that we're hiring people with CDLs, and that's also a contractual conversation. We have to hire the best qualified people and not just those people that someone might know. And I think that's also a problem for us, frankly. And so we need to move in that direction. Frankly, if we don't, and we continue to segregate our workforce, what's happening is we are not getting we are not maximizing our labor. And when I have to hear, oh, something might cause overtime, I would much rather pay people overtime for a snowstorm here or a snowstorm there, or God forbid we have another water break someplace, than to hire 1 or 2 or 3 additional bodies and have that additional $150,000 or $200,000 worth of salary and benefits just for those instances. Really, we're covering those instances, in my opinion. And I think that is money that we need to keep to put in that new building, get more safety, more equipment, buy more vehicles, do more paving, and get some other things done for the town. I believe that we have to implore our workforce to work more closely together, and we can't do it by what we're seeing now with this budget discussion, which in this part of it, which again, I'm actually insulted that somehow I would jeopardize public safety. That is just ridiculous. So I'll leave it at that. And again, we cannot have these departments be segregated any longer. I think 2021, I wanted to do it in 2020, start that conversation, but with COVID, obviously, and other commitments that we had, we couldn't do it. But in 2021, we all have to put our taxpayers and the future of our town, as far as maintaining our independence and sovereignty, if you will, and go in and put in new buildings, get people that will come to work that are qualified with CDLs and everything else, rather than try to bring people in that we think might work out. We've all been, I've done that. I've said, well, this person might work out, and it doesn't. I think that, I've learned my lesson here as well in hiring people that we should have looked for more qualified candidates for different jobs. So having said that, I mean, I am in support of what we have, and with, I know that there'll be more discussion here. I know Ms. McGurl has a set of budget modifications that have to do with a couple different positions, and most of it is allocating money so that we can put laborers on in the highway department, and also under the general fund and sewer and water, split a couple of positions there. One in particular is hopefully to hire a town engineer, and then also to have a part-time laborer under those departments as well for the time being. So having said that, anyone else have anything under discussion for this?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor, a couple of things. If I'm hearing you correctly, we're under the tax cap by 50,000, correct?
You got to leave a cushion so that you know that. Okay.
Right. But let's basically, for this conversation's purposes, it has to be a give and get. If we give here, we got to take somewhere else. Is
That's
that a fair
correct.
statement?
That's correct.
So because we can't, I am not a fan of going over the tax cap, and you've painted a clearer picture. regarding that. I'd like to go through it piece by piece and ask Larry a couple of questions to see if we can find a path to success that he could possibly be comfortable with. Right now in the
So-
budget,
Let me tell you what's in the budget. Yeah, let me just tell you. So in the budget is 2 hires for January. And the discussion I had with Mr. Lamora and Mr. Signor was that if you have money, that you have some money within this year's budget in 2020, that you can allocate. And if there's some way for us to even have a couple of budget transfers that you could allocate and hire people prospectively for January, I'm in support of that. Get people in early to get them trained. Then you have in the budget, there's a hire for June. So, mid-year, okay?
All right, so from the 5, we're down to 2.5, correct?
Yes, call it that, sure.
Okay. Larry, one of the positions of opening up is a mechanic, correct?
No, yeah, one of them's retiring, yes,
Okay.
but the position's not filled for that.
Okay, so you know who Jimmy Green is over in the industrial park, correct?
Correct, yes.
Could we make an emergency agreement with him to use him as the emergency mechanic, and that might solve that part of the issue? Again, I'm just breaking it down piece by piece here to see if I can create a consensus amongst the board. So if we had 2 mechanics full-time and Jimmy Green on an on-call emergency basis, could it work for a year? Just a year?
Evan, that would all indicate what happens when the truck goes down. Sometimes it's just a matter of a cable breaks on a plow. Sometimes it's something major. We get it back. Sometimes it takes a tow truck to get it in. Back to the highway department, then do analysis of what is wrong with the truck. And then sometimes they have to go to the dealer. To call Jimmy Green in at 1 o'clock in the morning because we got a truck broke down someplace. I mean, we have our fleet here with our mechanics that know our trucks, and usually 90% of the time when something happens, they can get out there and fix it right away. They know a lot of times we have the parts on hand here. If a lot of times it's hydraulic lines, we fix them here. We get the truck back here and be able to do it. Jimmy Green's not gonna, come in, I don't imagine 12 o'clock at night to be able to get a truck off.
Well,
of the
that's
street.
where we would use our people. And let's face it, Larry, a new guy is not going to know our trucks. You have 2 guys that know our trucks, correct?
We have 3 now, then we have 2, right? And if we
Right,
do.
and
bring
one is
in
retiring, so you got to bring one in. The other thing that we discussed about amongst our colleagues here, because again, I'm strictly, I'm trying to be the guy with the fire extinguisher and put the fire out. I am not a fan of going over the tax cap. So whatever we move around, it's got to be replaced by something. It's got to be taken away somewhere else. So maybe we go through some other things and then get back to highway. Larry, out of your 26 remaining, how many have CDLs?
Offhand, I don't know exactly, but we're doing good with CDLs. We have CDL drivers to cover.
Okay, so bringing in the possibility of laborers, okay, could we? And again, this is a year, and I had a great conversation with you, Larry, of full disclosure, and I hear you about the public safety issue, but I also heard Supervisor Tomazone's argument about not going over the tax cap as well. So here I am, I'm trying to figure something out that works. If you telling me now that you have enough CDL drivers, could you get away for one season with paying some people out of title for some supervisor positions and some plower positions during a snowstorm?
Yes, that does generally happen.
Okay.
That does happen.
So then basically we're talking now about a pool of laborers. And that's where I think the idea of hiring through DPW, which doesn't affect your budget, Larry, but
What
allows us
happens
to.
when they're not available though, Evan?
Well, again, we're in a crisis situation here because I don't want to go back to the residents and told them that, they're going to lose out because we didn't hit the tax cap. I don't know how the other 3 council people feel, but how can we get you there now? Is Ed Dixon, does Ed Dixon drive a plow?
Yes, at times. Most of the time, I like to have him doing the dispatching and following around, like sometimes if there's an accident, a resident runs into a plow truck or something like that, or up in the hills
But
once in
in
a while,
general, he's not the plow guy you rely on.
not at all times,
He's
no.
more of a dispatcher slash supervisor.
Right.
Okay, so you're talking now out of the 5 missing positions, you're getting 2. One guy's really not a plow guy. You know, I will tell you, and for my colleagues to hear, you know, and then you're getting another one in June. If we can find the funding, and I'm going to qualify it with if we can find the funding, you know, I wouldn't mind trying to squeeze one more out, but we've got to find what's a new guy cost with benefits, 70K, Mr. Supervisor?
Roughly.
Roughly,
If
okay.
we're talking
So
family.
We got to find 70,000 to give you just one more. So why don't we continue on with other elements of the budget, and maybe we can find something to, if nothing else, move the June guy to January, Mr. Supervisor. And then at least he's got 3 guys plus some out of title pay. If not, maybe we move the June guy to April or something. But again, I think the point here is anything we do, we got to take from somebody else, because we might not go over that tax cap.
And the other part that I'll just say that you have identified here, and is that first of all, you're talking about water and sewer and parks. I don't think anyone's reached out to them to really ask them if they would want to work more and be laborers. And what I mean by that is help with the snow plowing. I know that there's a few people that work within that area, those areas of those departments that have worked on the highway in the past and probably have some experience that they could lend as well. And again, I think that that's where the conversation has to be had to ensure that on the DPW side, we're making certain that we have people that are learning to just not operate snowplows, but get their CDL licenses and go out and then work together across departmental lines. As far as cost goes, just to be clear, if we're taking a laborer from, let's say that someone does want to assist and goes in and can assist in capacity of with a snowplow driver, helping with the wing, operating the wing of the snowplow, that person would be paid under the highway. Their costs would be charged there, and we would be able to to get the money from the highway side of the budget, so it doesn't come from the A fund. So along those lines, what you would have to do is we would have to allocate a little bit of additional money, not a lot, but I would say somewhere in the realm of probably $2,500 to $5,000 in the overtime total for, and I would put it across the laborer and senior laborer lines to accommodate that. And again, I think that, because no one's asked, because we have this idea that we have to continue this segregating these departments, I think is a mistake for us long term. Communities around us, other municipalities like Niskayuna and others, they have one operating DPW, and it seems to work very well. So let's continue the discussion. Ms. McGurl, do you have that? Because I do not have the updated. I don't think I have the updated. I'll have to double check here. If you could excuse me for a moment, because we're still on this resolution under the question. I have to look to see if I have an updated version of that budget modifications, and I think I do here.
An updated version of
The budget modifications, I do, because I know that there was.
I saved it in SharePoint earlier today, but I can
Okay, so it's there. So
forward it if you need me to.
Yeah, you could forward it. That would be great, because I think that so she moved it, because with the version I had, the columns.
Yeah, I
are
changed.
different, that's all. Yeah, the columns.
Correct.
are
Yes. Mhm.
So if you don't mind forwarding that out so that everyone can see those changes. And then what we would have to do is, we could make modifications within this spreadsheet to a couple of those lines, as Mr. Christou is intimating here, if there's agreement.
Supervisor. Can I ask Larry a couple of questions?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Larry, so when a snowstorm's going on, all hands on deck, everybody's in. What percentage of your people are out in the trucks that have the ability to be part of the plowing team, whether driving or on a wing?
100%. They're all qualified. They all know what they're doing. Here they do. They're all qualified. They're all cross-trained with everything.
So there's not any instances where someone's there, but they're not certified, qualified, they don't have their license to be in a truck plowing.
Right, no,
Okay, so-
everybody's qualified here.
So do the mechanics drive at all?
Yes,
All three of them will help when needed?
yes, absolutely. There's times that, a lot of times, one of the mechanics are always in the truck. Like I said last year, when one went out on top, we were down the route, we put one of the mechanics in as a wingman.
And we do have a guy that's gonna be out for a month, right? Surgery, January?
I already got one that's gonna have a surgery in January. He's planning that he's gonna have to be out of work for a month. So that's already puts me back where with my 29 people, when that does happen, I would like to go to the DPW pool. But then who are you gonna send me? Are they gonna be qualified? Mr. Thomason says I should be cross-training these people. They don't work in this department. They're working in either the water department, the sewer department, or the parks department.
And
Right,
again,
right.
some of them, let me interrupt if I could,
No,
because
wait, let
that's
me
not
just-
accurate.
Let me say this, Larry, that's something we're gonna work towards and we're gonna get to. I mean, I agree with Steve, we need to start sharing the pool, but I don't think right now or in any situation for this winter to say we can start sharing the pool. I mean, we can't have guys out there that aren't trained, you know, and
Right.
to say,
But anybody new coming in, Joe, is not going to be doing that anyway. So like, can we get away with it with out of title pay and overtime? That's the point
so
here. So you
here's
don't
the
go
thing
to
with
tax-
overtime. So a guy's been out 12 hours, we're gonna send him back out because we don't have anybody. He's gonna be 16 hours on the road,
Well,
jeopardizing his own driver's license, his own livelihood, and the
Well-
safety of himself and others. I mean,
if everybody but laborer is qualified to, I'm getting mixed signals here. I'm getting confused. If everybody but laborer is qualified to run a plow truck, that should be about 20 people, correct?
so the question to Larry is, Larry, who do we bring in immediately that can jump right in? And if we hire somebody in December, how soon are they contributing to plowing roads, whether they're running a wing or driving a truck?
They're not, because they're laborers. It's
Well, no,
everybody above them.
laborers are your wingmen. The way laborers are the wingmen most generally.
Okay. So
Your
that
heavy
means that,
equipment operators and your MEOs are the truck drivers.
okay. So if your wingman can be a laborer, then
He is
if
a
there's no
laborer.
water main breaks, you have that pool. And again, I think that, I mean, is there a training process for a wingman? Or is it a ride along until you learn it? How does that work, Larry? Question.
It's pretty much when we hire somebody, when the winter time comes, if they're new to it, before a storm comes, we take them out in the truck, we show them how to operate the wings. The drivers tell them how they have to operate the wings. And we may even go out and do a dry run with the truck around a couple blocks, and they will extend the wings in and out and get a little bit of, useful of the hydraulics to be able to run them.
Mr. Supervisor, is there anybody at Parks we can send over to Larry right away to do that training?
So first of all, I just want to stop that because, we're talking about people, we're talking about potentially issues with, let's just call it union matters. And again, there are people who work on the DPW side who came from highway. I know some of the skill sets of a few of them. I don't know the rest. So I think that, we'll have to bring that up and I think we'll be able to find those that will, and I don't like to use the word volunteer, but that would probably want to learn more about the operations and in particular be paid to work. So, they have the capacity to do so. So I think that, by just saying that, well, who are we going to call and, are they going to show up? Well, if you haven't asked yet, you don't know.
So, can we
Work on that.
table highway and get to the rest of some of the suggestions on Mr. Gitterelli's spreadsheet and some other issues? And if we can come up with some cuts if we can come up with some cuts, you know, maybe we can do something to help the other departments that are asking for, you know, and for the record, in knowing Mr. Tomazoni as he approached this budget, I don't think he singled out. I think when it came to replacing retirees, he was pretty consistent in every department. So having said that, shall we look at Joe's spreadsheet a little bit?
Let's do that, and then I would just say that you know, if we estimate the problem with the idea of half FTE in highway, we'd have to do a rough estimate. We might be off a little bit, and then on top of that, we would have to. And I'm just thinking out loud here. I think that if we let me just double check. I'm just going to double check some guidance here. I'm just going to do some quick research for myself on the contingent account piece, because if maybe we just move money into one account, and then we with the understanding we're going to allocate it elsewhere, you know, after January 1. So let me figure this part out and let Joe give his discussion here. I'll be back in a few minutes.
Everyone saw a copy of the spreadsheet I sent?
Yeah, I have it open on my other computer here. I'm
Yes.
confused though. When you put a minus sign, you mean you're adding to the budget, and the numbers without a plus or minus sign, you're deducting from the budget?
Yes, so increase or decrease, yeah, that one that is a
That's
minus.
actually an increase then,
It's
so you
a
got it back.
spend. It's a spend, the other ones are savings.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I saw that afterwards. I went back and forth thinking what makes sense on the title for this column, and I couldn't come up with one, so.
Okay, all
Yeah,
right, so just reverse thinking then.
So the red one is spending more money, the other ones are saving money. Yes,
Okay.
cutting money from the budget. So I hope no one's gonna take offense to all the legal fees that I had on there. It was a joke. We have two lawyers.
You have a lot of lawyers on this call.
Yeah.
Nobody's laughing.
Yeah, I know. So maybe you took offense, huh? So
Your legal fees
I
are
don't-
directly connected to how many problems your employees make for you. So it's a question of
Right.
feel lucky.
All right,
Yeah,
let's go item by item. Joe, we got here court clerks. Your question is, are we keeping all 5 clerk positions into next year? At this time, the one retiree, we were assuming not to replace it, correct?
right, yes, I think that was the case. Although looking at the budget, to me, it looked like it was still in the budget, but Steve said to me that I think that had to do with the part of the retirement portion of it. But I still don't know. Like I said, to me, it looks like it's still in the budget. So yes, that is number one.
Okay, on that discussion, in speaking with to 2 judges, and I'm going to defer to the 3 attorneys who have experience in the courts, that without that person, processing things that would bring in revenue would be delayed and pretty much not happening. So
Yes.
if it's going to affect revenue, are we cutting off our nose to spite our face, not to fill it? Are we jumping over dollars to pick up pennies?
Right, it cuts into cash flow.
Right. Kate, what's your take on
And
that?
paperwork, it slows down the paperwork as well.
Right.
Well, they have specific software the Office of Court Administration requires them to use, and there's a pretty firm division, amongst your individuals who are employed there in terms of who does what. There's, issues related to handling the money. There's issues related to calendaring items, to, utilizing the software, et cetera, et cetera. You are the 13th busiest justice court in the state of New York, so you're a very busy court. I think that it remains to be seen, and I know that I've definitely talked to, Sam and Steve about a variety of different issues as it relates to where the 4th Judicial District is going with respect to virtual appearances, and then what does that look like as they continue to streamline these sorts of items,
All right. So Anything else, Kate, on that? Steve Signori, what do you say? What say you?
Well, you guys create quite a situation because I realize again, here's my perspective on it, and I'm also appreciative of what everyone is saying here. But I say this from my particular standpoint. I am familiar a little bit with what the court's numbers are. I think that the court's numbers are, maybe 1,500 cases, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm looking at my office, and my office handles about between 55 to 6,000 cases. I've got 3 full-time secretaries managing all the caseloads that come through, which includes family court, criminal courts, 5 of the other justice courts, county courts, parole, family courts, if I didn't already mention it, in addition to the stuff and demands that the attorneys put on them. And we're able to function under that. It's tough for me to say what goes on in that particular, that court, but I'm just giving you, some perspective as to what, my office is able to accomplish with the people with the 3 full-time there. We're not dealing with revenue. I understand that. So that's, I guess, my comment on it, but I will go with what the majority is on this. I am not going to be an impediment to, keeping the clerk on or keeping the 5 there. I'm just putting that in perspective. So if, we got 2 people besides, exclusive of me, who feel that they should be on there and we can get, I'm fine with it.
Okay, Samantha?
Excuse
I
me,
would just note that
Yeah.
your volume is slightly less than the city of Schenectady. You're several hundred cases less than the city of Schenectady. And the only reason why I'm familiar with that statistic is that when the criminal procedure law changed in April of 2019, we had discussions with the district attorney's office, informal discussions in terms of what does this look like as we started to move towards, the idea of centralized arraignment, as it related to this. And so in speaking with the supervisor for this court, that was clear to me. He also supervises the attorneys in the justice court in Rotterdam.
So how many clerks does the city have?
They're employed by OCA. There's a significant number of them at varying grades.
Okay.
They have them divided between criminal, traffic, and civil
Traffic,
too. So
Civil.
they actually
yeah.
have 3 different sections of office staff doing these
Okay.
things.
And
I
their
think-
civil division is much busier, right, Sam? I mean, say they
Yeah.
process thousands of cases every single year.
Right. I think my perspective would be that with COVID and things slowing down, I don't know that, the revenue issue is one that we need to, I don't know that that's a relevant discussion right now, but I don't know that I feel comfortable eliminating that position permanently. My suggestion would be we leave the line there and maybe look to not fill it until later in the year. When we know kind of how things will rebound from COVID, how the courts are going to run in a post-COVID world, when things may or may not get back to normal. If OCA comes through and they start streamlining things like how fines are paid, how things are being processed, we may not need that person, or we might not need a full timer. We don't know yet. So my thoughts would be leave it and look to maybe not, look at filling it till March, reassess it at that point.
Yeah, if we could find the money, I'm okay with that suggestion. I think it shows good faith. It shows that, we're budgeting some money, but the longer we can hold off until we get to hopefully a post-COVID world, then we can address it then. So
Yeah, I mean,
now we
you
have,
guys know I like to pinch the pennies wherever we can. I just don't know that I'm comfortable I'm not comfortable with a lot of the changes we're talking about without knowing more about I don't think any of us know what the year ahead holds. So
I agree.
agreed. And that's why this forum is important, because
So-
I think it's important that we at least collaborate, and if nothing else, we agree to disagree. But okay, so again, if we find money for half a year, perhaps we leave some money in that budget.
Yeah, so Joe was saying that he wasn't sure whether that position was still there or if it was buyout kind of thing. So what is the answer on that?
Steve, Mr. Supervisor. No. Well, he may step
We
away.
lost him, but
Steve Signori, I have a question for you. So
Yeah.
you said
Yeah.
your office does
Yeah.
not deal with revenue, right?
That is correct. I mean, Joe, we don't collect fines. We don't,
Right, so that means a lot less paperwork going through due to that, right? Because they're
Well-
not processing the finance part of it.
to be fair,
Uh,
other courts do it with like a half of a person. So we already have a decent sized staff for a justice court.
Okay,
but I guess, Joe, from the angle I'm looking at it from my optics is most of what we're doing is we are doing, a lot of what the court does, opening files, sending letters out. And, much of the organization that goes into, handling 5 courts and in a city court, plus family court, parole, all those other things. So there's an administrative component to that is only being done with 3 people in my office. Again, I'm not trying to, we may be comparing apples and oranges. I'm trying to think, I think there might be 5 clerks in city court, which does the criminal portion of it. As Kate was talking about for Schenectady City Court. I don't have the numbers to know what the volume difference between what Rotterdam does on an annual basis versus what the city court does. But I can tell you, I mean, I could probably run the, it may not be a good idea tonight, but I can spit out and find out how many city court cases we're handling compared to what the volume is over in Rotterdam in the cases are coming through. But I do understand we don't have a revenue portion or revenue aspect to our office. And I realize and I understand that that's very important to, everyone overall. So
Mr.
I don't know if that answers your question, Joe. Does that help answering your question or no?
yes.
Okay.
Mr. Supervisor, the money that's in this line, is that buyout money, retirement money? What's in, if I'm reading this correctly, it looks like there's some money in that line still.
What you're talking about, the court clerk position?
Yes.
That is buyout only.
That's that 40,000, if I'm reading it correctly?
It's buyout only.
Buyout only. Okay.
So basically, we've already eliminated the position line moving forward, and to add it back in would get us right up to the tax cap.
Right.
Actually, it
So-
would push us over with benefits.
Absolutely, it would push social benefits. And then there's going to be a discussion amongst us, what's more important, another person for Larry or this court clerk? So,
I also think that that's a discussion that you probably should have with the justices. What I'm hearing is that, as you, I think I said, you have some part-time funds within that line, but I don't know that, we have the support for that.
well, again, perhaps a part-time job that doesn't get filled right away, or like I said, something there. But again, moving on to the other stuff, we'll come back for that. Consultant services. Okay, so we've got allocated for consultant services, 20,000. Mr. Guidarelli is proposing 5,000. He says, let's discuss what state services available or AOT, Association of Towns, at no cost.
And maybe I was misinterpreting what that consulting is for. So I didn't know if that was consulting as far as evaluating that office and the functionality of it, or is that bringing someone back in?
Hopefully keeping who we have
Okay,
working for us now.
yeah,
That's what that is.
yes.
Okay. Well, that becomes a moot discussion.
Yeah, it kind of, yes.
Okay.
I'll have to concede on that one.
Right. So the next one, you're adding $1,015 to the deputy town clerk. Okay, so there's a clerk's position at 4160. Is that where you're looking at, Joe?
Yes, and yes. It's,
No names.
request from the town clerk to kind of
Equalize the salaries.
equalize the salaries there, yes.
Well, let me ask you a question. Would it make more sense? And again, I might be speaking out of school here. If we took that person and put them in that CSEA position, and this way you keep a lower salary for somebody coming in, and the deputy town clerk becomes $40,160. Just a question. You know, Diane, please feel free to chime in.
My feelings is the deputy has more responsibility than anyone working as a clerk or whatever title. So my question is again, I think that person should make more, okay? That person does not have to be civil service, because I have a legal right that I can appoint a first deputy and a second deputy. So I'm flexible, whatever you do. I just feel that the deputy town clerk should make, even if it's $500 more or whatever.
Or at
She
least
needs
the
to make
same is what you're asking here.
She needs, yeah, I mean, even if it has to be the same, but it still isn't fair because she has more responsibility than a clerk. But
Diane,
whatever, I'm flexible.
Can I just clarify something with you? You said that she wouldn't be civil service, but everyone that works for the town is civil service. Did you mean that you didn't want her to be in the bargaining unit?
No, she just is not civil service. She's a deputy town clerk, but she's not in civil
Well, she
service.
falls under civil. I think Kate's point is that she falls under civil service.
My title is civil service. Your title as an elected official is civil service. We're all civil
Right,
service. So I
okay,
just want
then
to clarify, yeah.
Not in the
She
bargaining.
didn't come from
Not
she didn't come from a civil service list like other employees have come from. All right, then that's it.
Okay, yeah, no, I
No,
mean,
'cause-
just appointive position, right? I think we're all clear on that piece of it. I
Yeah.
think what Evan is asking you, Diane, is do you want her to stay in an appointive position, or would you rather that she transition into the bargaining unit?
No, I've already been
I'd love-
through that. So appointed.
Okay, all right, so that's the clarification.
All right, that's the clarification.
And like I said, I'm flexible. If they have to both be the same, fine, but really a deputy should be making more. She has more responsibility than.
And that's why I made the suggestion of putting her in the bargaining unit, because then
Yeah.
we could find a title that would offer her that extra.
All right,
function.
that's a whole nother
You wanna-
ordeal.
Yeah, if you want to keep her appointed, then that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm going to defer to the other board members on this. I mean,
I'm okay with it.
I am
Oh.
too.
Joe, are you okay with it?
Yes,
All right, so that's 3 votes. I'm okay with it too. So that's
Thank you.
fine. Let's make them equal. I'm okay with making them equal at this time. Moving
Thank you.
down the road, we can look into that other ordeal, Diane.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. So there's 1,000. So now we're down to 49,000.
I just cost us $1,000.
What'd
I'll
you
own
say?
it. I'll own it.
You'll loan it?
I'll own it, yes.
You'll own it. Okay. So now, again, let's go through the rest of the stuff. All of the rest looks like attorney and legal fees. So I'm just going to do something here and I'm going to sum these up.
And my thought is, we have great on-staff legal. We haven't used this money last year, any of it this year, and, you know, we're looking to pick up change, so I think it's just some change we can grab right here.
So basically, I think you're saying along the supervisor's concept of collaboration, is there some collaboration in the legal field that can help us save some money?
Right, and then, you know, us and me particularly as a board member, just gonna have to make sure we do things that don't cost us, that we don't need legal for.
I think we've created so many issues that are gonna bring legal into, into the mix in the next year. I mean, just labor attorney, how many times are we calling the private law firm on things that they were not, that we didn't specifically retain them for to deal with issues that should be done in-house, but suddenly aren't being done in-house.
Right,
So
right.
there, we're gonna, at $300 an hour, we're gonna blow through that just based on town board members calling this outside law firm. Title services for easements, you can't do anything about that. We have to be able to run title searches and do all the title work as we take easements for things like the sewer district. Bonding attorneys, we're most likely going to need to do the highway garage. Labor attorneys, what I just discussed. Court case filing fees, we don't know, and it might, play off any of those sewer districts and any of that stuff we're working on. Tax cases are, I'm sorry, I forgot his name, Scott Rondon, right?
Yes, correct.
Who, frequently represents us, and it really just depends on the extent of the cases. Law appraisals, I mean, we might have had a good year, but I know, I'm the daughter of an appraiser who charges a lot of money for those. So
Great,
I'm going to tell you he can blow through 10 grand pretty easily on a significant
again-
piece of
Again,
property.
if we're looking at some emergency situations, seems like Councilman Guidarelli is looking for about a $10,000 reduction here, from 57.5 to 46. Add, take
No,
out
no,
the 1,000.
No, he's
No, I think
looking
he's looking
for
for the
close to
$46,000.
$50,000. Yeah, it's 46.
I'm looking to shave 46.
You're looking to
Yeah.
shave 46.
Yeah,
Yeah,
46.
that
is
might
what-
be a little much, buddy.
Well, like I said, the last year and this year so far, nothing's spent in either of these accounts as far as labor.
It just means we
have.
haven't paid out
literally
the
have
bills
bills.
yet.
I literally have bills sitting on my desk that need to be redacted and then sent to different departments in relation to that.
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
they
it
tend
just means they
to-
haven't been paid yet.
Yeah, so these aren't the full amounts. Are there any of this can we handle, and can we be better with our labor relations?
Well, we
Can
have
we be
two
better with our
contracts.
labor relations? Absolutely, but we create our own issues. So
Okay,
unless
so
unless all of us want to sit down and get on the same page about how we deal with labor issues and start
Yeah,
nipping some of these
let's.
things in the bud, that's fine. But I don't want to. But these, the lawsuits that come about into next year will be for issues that have already occurred this year. So just think about the things that we've discussed so far this year and how many of those things are going to bite us in the butt when there's a lawsuit filed next year for it.
So how do we
So-
get in front? How do we get out in front of something?
Can I speak a little bit here? So, we want to get in front of it. I know, I agree. And one of the best ways we can get in front of it is to ensure that employees don't get mixed messages and different stories from different council members and supervisor. So that and
Absolutely.
department, that's a lot of it. The other thing, let me finish one second. I just want to say one thing. The other thing is we have both contracts to negotiate because they both expire at the end of this year. Going into 2021, the budget contains a 1% salary increase, not a 2% salary increase. So that math is already in the budget as well. So that you start to comprehend a little bit about moving things one way or another. We don't know what the year holds. We don't know what the result of the negotiations of the contract will be. There are enough, I think, unknowns here. I do think that if you want to work through, and you'll see that there are a lot of, I don't want to say a lot of expense, but there's a lot of expense in the law side, and it's coming in right now. And that's where we're getting the bills now for what we've encumbered from the summer through the fall here. So you don't see it here reflected, unfortunately.
But so in 2019, we didn't spend anything on these. Well, I know we spent some, but some of them we spent nothing.
In
I
20,
think that is accurate that in 2019 there were some lines that we didn't need, and that was great, but I don't anticipate that being true for the next year just based on the stuff we already have pending.
So there's not any room on any of these numbers.
I would just,
at all.
and I would just back up to, just because, Joe, I know that your contingency amount comes later, but you're currently in the process of bidding and seeking quotes as it relates to your insurance, right? And so to Sam's point about issues that you're currently aware of, you do not know what your deductibles are going to be for those insurance amounts. And that's even if it's covered, right? And you've had cases recently where we've had notices of claim, et cetera, where, the insurance company has sent you, reservation of rights as it relates to that because it isn't, in their view, potentially conduct that would be covered under the policy. And so the question then becomes, what is your tolerance for the expenditure of funds out of those lines that are available to you if you have a situation like that, any type of, federal claim that appears to be involving punitive damages will blow right through that right off the rip, And so I guess to the point about the items that are outstanding, you are aware of what those items are. And so I would ask that you consider that as you look to cut $46,000 out of the budget. Because if you're going to take that money and set it aside and put it back in the general fund, that would be one thing. But it sounds like the discussion is moving towards you're
Yeah.
going to use that money to hire more people. And so therefore, what will you do if you have 6 claims in relation to X, Y, or Z, and one of those claims involves punitive damages in federal district court,
Yeah, no, and I get it. And
Find that money somewhere.
And I put the numbers in as, a start. I went high and figured we'd discuss it. I didn't think it's gonna be.
No, I
okay.
think it's
We're
always a
getting
good
them all.
spot to
No.
discuss.
Yeah.
I
Right.
don't see how we can cut that money out. I think it still needs to be there liquid in case, some of these cases don't go well.
All of it, every bit. Okay.
If we reassign it, quote unquote, then, it doesn't really get us where we think it does.
Okay, no, and like I said, I sent this out as topics for discussion, so we're talking about it.
My goal each fiscal year is to expend as little money out of my budget as possible. And you use that money at the end of the year for other things. You've used it for employee salaries. You used it to purchase a very fancy truck for the water department one year. You use it for all kinds of things. I like to care for things to the extent that I have the ability to, and to keep a lid on things, and then subsequently return to you as much money as is humanly possible with respect to that, right? Because when I have a good year in terms of the expenditure of the money, it means that the town of Rotterdam has a good year in relation to its, litigation and claims, right?
Yeah, no, I get it. Okay, we can move on. On line 24, CIS support and upgrade for the computer. Is that CIS? Should that be CIS?
It's everything. That's not just the expense for contracts. It's also
Getting harder and harder.
Hardware, that's everything, right?
everything. It's also new software.
Yeah, our monthly and everything. Okay,
Everything.
that's all I wanted to just ask about that.
And it is increased because, we intend to move forward with some upgrades to software and across.
Okay. Yeah, no, and I knew we talked about. So this other 10 grand, this goes along with the legal then, huh? Judgment and claims, the SPIM account? SPIM? Is that what you guys are telling me?
Okay, no, that's the account that we frankly have as our, so when we, so let me say it this way, if our insurance costs increase more than what we've budgeted,
Yep.
that's probably what we're gonna have to hit in order to make that payment.
Okay,
If we have some other, unforeseen expense, we can move money from this account. That's what this account is for.
okay. And then that other contingent account, 100,000.
I'm sorry, Mr. Guerrero. No,
No, you were
judgment-
right with the first one. You explained my first. That was right. I asked you about that. And then I'm
Sorry.
just
Yeah,
moving
that's
down.
okay.
I'm not wasting,
So-
yeah.
The judgment and claims, I mean, it's one of those things where if we get it and then we don't have the money, for the deductibles and things like that.
No, I get that.
As
So
well,
no, the one under it for the 100,000.
100,000 is what I was describing. So if we're in a position where we don't, we're off some of our targets here of on the expense side, we can use this account in order to make those payments. And we did some of that last year with our insurance.
So do we need the whole 100?
Yeah,
Sorry, guys.
for budget this size, absolutely.
I got interrupted there. Are we shaving anything from the attorney's fees? Where did we leave that? I got interrupted. I'm sorry.
No.
No.
Nothing.
Yeah, we're not doing anything.
Now, the building inspection you have in here, building demolition, we do have several properties throughout the town that we're, that our staff has been working on, and we're also the land bank and hopefully Habitat will have some appetite to help us in a few of these locations, but we need to have some funds set aside for the potential demolition. And most of these properties are very old. And it's highly likely that we'll have to have asbestos abatement and asbestos testing of asbestos abatement. So
Well, then the question would be, can we trim 5 or not trim 5?
I mean, you want, it's not 5, he wants to trim 45. The
Maybe I'm
columns,
just,
the columns are important.
Well,
no,
So I would say if you want to,
maybe I'm,
want to use this as one of the talking points for one of the things, if you want, we can do that, I guess. We can move on here. I think we're going to be here a little longer than I anticipated tonight. Okay, so.
no, we don't have to talk about that more. No, I get it.
I'm marking that page. And now you have the other, the cafe meal service contract.
Yes.
Okay. So, I mean, I did speak with you, but I'll say, so we don't, I anticipate that we'll be utilizing these funds for a contract next year. Do I know that it's going to be January? Do I know it's going to be March? I don't know that right now. I don't know for certain. I'm hopeful that it'll start up in January and we can move forward with providing meals on site to those who need them. And then the other piece of this becomes, well, if COVID continues, is there a way that we can also ensure that those who need the services and need food within our community have access to meals? And I think that's why this money should remain where it is, because we may need to utilize it for something else, whether, and I don't want to say Meals on Wheels, but something, like.
Yeah, and again, I wanted to discuss
I know.
this. Yeah.
Just so we're bringing them all up.
So, but back to this 4172, that 100,000. We didn't use it in 2019. We didn't use any of it.
No, we move money in and out of that account. What happens is so it's one of those accounts that, so I'll say it like this: it's maybe utilizing your business where you basically have a set aside for expenses and you try to replenish it as much as possible.
I got you.
So that's what happens there.
All right.
I got it. Again, those dollars are there in case our estimates that we received don't meet the actual, don't meet the estimates, and we need to get more money from somewhere.
No, I get it. I'm finally getting it. I've been up since 4:30.
Don't worry about it. We're good.
I'm kind of beat when these meetings start.
You're telling me? Yeah. So.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Let's move into, so you have the other document that Ms. McGurl shared there as well, which is the 2021 budget request, and I can kind of go through that with you also. No, sorry. Yes, I think she shared. Didn't you share that one too? Or am I mistaken? Sorry, I think I'm on the wrong page.
She's muted.
Okay, I'm on the wrong page. That's partially my fault. So the November 10th budget modifications for the meeting. Do you have that?
I've been updating it as you've been talking in SharePoint to replace, so it's now ready. It's the other item that's in SharePoint aside from just the final agenda is your preliminary budget modifications as if you choose to adopt what it is that you've just discussed.
Okay, all right. So
do you want me to share my screen? Is that
am I doing that? That's what I was going to do.
That may be easier.
Thank you, Kate.
Let me just go into, so which item do you want to?
I would say.
Want to see the spreadsheet first? As
Yeah,
it,
let's put it all
I mean, I
up
can
there.
see that 3 of you are in it right now, but hold on one second.
Yeah, I am.
Extra rows and.
I'll get out of it.
That's no, you can stay in. It's fine. I just wanted,
It's everybody, and we'll do it that way.
I think it's easier, just to know that you're all looking at it at the same time, because everyone's different.
And I think we can share it on the screen here so we can go through it.
Okay.
Thank you, Kate. That's Joe's.
Right, so this is, if you saw the resolution that I had put in SharePoint earlier today, the draft resolution, if you chose to, do you want to see the resolution instead? I mean, this is where you are here.
Yeah, but here's the
It's-
thing, we're not gonna reduce building inspection demolition by 45.
Yeah, by that,
Well, you didn't reach a consensus on that, so that's why I left it in there. No one said no. Okay, so we're gonna take that out.
I mean, if you know, I'll concede 5,000, hopefully we can do something there, but I know that that's our estimate for DPW.
we'll take the 5, it covers Diane's 1,000.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, well,
So
we got,
Joe, you're +4.
I think what I heard.
And then we'll go down and play Spanish 21.
And you want to do something along the lines of the, if we're still discussing the highway, and I've been marking different pages that we can go through quickly and maybe find some additional money to do that additional hire in January rather than June, if that's what the board wants. But let's, but again, we got to end Summit. Our problem now will be that whatever numbers we do come up with is going to be an estimate, and then hopefully we'll have enough to work in on the overtime, a couple overtime lines and stuff like that, because we're going to need money in those lines as well. So we'll go through that. We'll have to go through that highway budget separate. Okay. So on that, we're looking at 5,000. Okay. So I would eliminate the next 3 lines, frankly, because I don't think that we need that right now. I think now, if we're, well, let me ask. I don't want to jump ahead. Are we talking about anything outside of highway at this point right now?
No, we've already got money budgeted for DPW in order to create some building inspector positions in that, correct, Mr. Supervisor?
So we have a full-time position there. We have part-time, we'll call it 1.5 part-time positions there. And we have 1 open full-time position and 1.5 part-time position. Okay.
Is that including a particular employee who might be retiring?
No, that's what I'm saying. That's no. It's strictly.
So that person, you'll have two full-timers at the end of the day.
If potentially,
Okay.
but we definitely have an opening there. If you recall, we could not fill that position. We chose not to fill the position because we hired somebody part-time that was helping us to fill the gap here this year in that department. And so now, into next year, we'll have to move forward with at least 1 full-time hire in that department as on the inspection side. That's in the budget. That was in this year's budget. We had to leave it open and we settled that. And now we're moving into next year's budget. Money's still there. Okay. So, all right. So we have those. So as far as the, so if you'll just afford me so from what I know from the parts of the budget that I did put together, can I use this too, right? I can get in here and do, can you give me permission? I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
She's muted.
Yeah,
Everyone can modify it. It's a document, it's a live document in SharePoint.
for some reason,
I
I'm not.
opened it up in emails and I can modify it if I wanted to, so. can
Do you
that.
want me to delete these lines?
Yeah, because I can't, but I can't get in there and do it from here because you're
That's
sharing.
fine.
Open it up on your email, Steve, then you can do
I
it.
got you. Yeah, forgive me. It is tired like everybody else is. So I honestly forgot what to do for a moment. Just give me, bear with me. Be patient. Okay. Yes. Okay. I'm in it. All right. So, let's see here. Oh boy, my page numbers didn't print. All right, I'm not gonna worry about the page number at the moment. Is that gonna be a problem? No, it shouldn't. Okay. All right, so we're going to, it's gonna be a negative. Why did that not print? Okay, sorry. Because what you're gonna need about, to do that, you're gonna need at least, I'm gonna call it 30,000. And I don't know if I'm gonna be able to find 30,000. Let me just see what we can just have just a little bit here and there and hopefully come up with some. Believe me, this is bothering me doing it like this, but I want to be able to vote tonight if we can. You already have that in there, 5,000. That's where we put the carpentry. We shouldn't touch that. So if you could go to the highway, if you could all just go to the highway budget and get to those pages. So where we begin, and I'm going to just keep the spreadsheet open. You got to start with where it says highway, or excuse me. Highway judgments and claims, tax refunds. You'll see it right at the top of it says highway fund, right at the top of the page right there. It's page 30 something, 35, I think. But like I said, my numbers on the bottom of the page here are 20, is it 25? No, it's gotta be 35. Are you there?
The equipment's on there, on the bottom of page 35, VA 511.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, so you're on the right page. All right, so let's start from there so that I just want us all to be in the same place. Thank you. So let me go back into the SharePoint here. Okay. All right, so just to go through quickly, so I did ask for more funds in what am I here? That's not it. An increase mechanic overtime from 10,000 to 14,000. And then we go to about page 38 or 39, I think. apologize, I'm having trouble seeing this right now. Should have brought my glasses. It's the same, snow overtime 75. You know, I think that, you know, looking at where we are on some of the overtime lines within the D fund here, and I wouldn't take too much out because what happens is with the A side here, so right here you've got 11,000. So let's just call it, for sake of argument, 10,000. If you pull some money from the on the D side, pull some money from the you know, you get a little bit of money maybe, but I don't know how much brush and weed overtime, because they're still going to have more pickups because the weather's been good. People are out there, you know, still utilizing that. So I don't know if I want to do anything there. That same, we get the same next year. That's a good number. That 17 that's in there for us. The fuel, brush and weeds, that again, see, one thing's with the fuel lines, it's always like catch up. It takes a while for us to catch up with those expenses. You do have, you know, approximately, I think, yeah, it's page 39, because see the next one's 40. 75,000 in snow overtime. If you know, want to take a little bit from there and try to come up with, you know, more money for this to fund this other position for January instead of June. Is that amenable?
That's all depending what kind of winter you got. Last winter was mild as far as the months of your snow overtime.
So right.
We're gonna go back into snow again.
I'm familiar with the weather patterns and the seasons, but the point of matter here is that if you want to fund this position,
Beginning of November, we're getting snow overtime again. We'll be starting, so we won't be finished with that.
I get it. It's not beyond me. What I'm saying is, and really this discussion is for the board. The idea here is that if you want to find some more resources here to do what it is that you're being asked of, then fine. If not, we can stop this and just leave the rest alone.
Well, we can try.
We can move money into. Frankly, we can just take this money and move it into a couple of overtime lines, and then you can figure it out in January. Does that make sense? You know, we don't have to touch that line. We can go to some other lines and put the money into the highway repair overtime and the highway general repairs overtime, and just put it in there, and then you can do a budget transfer and hire somebody earlier.
What about like things like trimming off the drug testing and stuff? It looks like, I mean, are those things
No.
we can.
No, frankly, Steve, I want to tell you something. I've said this for a long time. I think everybody should be drug tested, including elected officials, frankly. But
Yeah, no. I don't mean doing away with it. I don't mean doing away with it. I mean just trimming it down. Because
Why?
the reason I say that, Steve, is it looks like over years past we've had it at 2,500, and if we're playing catch up, and I understand the 2020 appropriations as of was it September was like 4,000. And we're budgeting 65. I'm just looking if there's wiggle room there. I'm not saying doing away with it.
Right. Okay. Fine. I mean, if you want to, you know, what page is that, Steve? Just to help me, is it?
Steve, on the I'm saying page 36 of the preliminary budget.
Can I give you an answer for that?
Is that comporting with what you've got?
Want to try to take 1,000 there or something?
Yep. You know, again, I'm just like I said, we're just trying to squeeze a little bit off there.
Problem with that is now we have a new thing called a query that's been developed this year that we're going to be charged for, that's by the federal administration for DOTs for your class A, class B licenses for your drug testing. It's a query that they run checks on everybody yearly to check if they have gone to courts or had any violations now. It is something new that we had the police department put us on because it was a required thing happening that had to be done. So we're gonna be getting bills for that. There's gonna be that's why that had gone up.
All right, so let's leave it alone.
There was a change in the federal law that required additional reporting as it related to that. And so you had an option of how it was that you were going to administer it, and you chose to go this route where it costs an additional $2,500 a year. But in terms of the service, it keeps you updated in terms of if someone has a violation that either subsequently rescinds their license. It basically operates like Lens on a federal level.
Correct.
So keep it or not keep it? I mean, when I say keep it or not keep it, I mean, trim it 500,000 or leave it.
Yeah, I think it's enough, Steve, to really.
Not worth, no,
here's what
do you
we
say
need.
worth the squeeze?
I don't think we should go there.
Okay.
Is there anything else, Larry, that you are aware of in your budget that you might be able to find some additional money for the earlier hire?
I'm looking, I mean, we've got it pretty close. I mean, every year in the past, I've took a little bit out, a little bit out, a little bit about. I don't know. I
think we put quite a bit in there in the last few years, and we've set aside money too for different purchases, for equipment and vehicles. I mean, I think we've managed it pretty well, but I think that I'm hesitant to go into other departments without having a conversation.
Can I just ask a general question? I mean,
Yes, please.
Are we looking to try to find the big ticket items to cut, or do we want to look at some of the smaller ones and see if they add up to,
I did
something relative?
Believe me, I did it all.
I mean,
I'm not saying, and Joe brought in, Joe brought in some items for discussion, and I think that, and frankly, like there are departments here that we haven't even talked about where these department heads are foregoing hiring to replace people just like everybody else is, and we haven't even talked about them at all, and
Yeah.
not that we need to, because they understand where we are and are
So right now we're looking at it, we're at a net decrease of $9,985.
we need at least I'm going to say you need at least another 20,000 to make this to basically turn that, and then Jackie will have to you'll have to massage this number within the D side, away from the A side, and get everything settled. She'll have to redo the paperwork for the tax cap paperwork that's due to the state as well. There's a lot involved here. It's quite voluminous, frankly. So the other places that I made cuts already to a couple of other departments, like I said, that they were okay with, and I'm just so hesitant to delve to cut more out. But I think that if we're just can't do it. Those lines are so small. Not enough there. And then the other changes that Ms. McGurl has to do with, like I said, with just allocating the director/engineer for DPW along different lines. So we've got to accommodate that.
No way we can trim maybe 10 grand from that big legal thing that Joey had mentioned. I'm not saying, cut it by 46,000, but You know, 20% would be 11,500. Is it that tight of a budget?
I mean, I just think that we're entering.
You don't know till you
unknown.
know.
It really is. We're just, everything's.
How much are we trying to find?
About 20.
You want me to do those?
I'm afraid. That's why I was hoping you
Yeah,
get in. No, okay, so how about what if I just don't want to reduce the CIS software and upgrades and stuff by anything, but let's take 10,000 from that, I guess, is what we'll do. Joe has it detailed there, and I'll try to figure something else out, I guess, after the fact there.
I mean,
We're just gonna have to do with some, hopefully with some antiquated equipment, or frankly, just not replace a couple of people's equipment is what we're gonna have to do there, I guess. So, there's
well,
10.
we're looking to pull it. I think we could probably go through and pull like $500 here, $1,000 there until we come up with it.
Well, the other place you can probably go into is, let me just get there, I think.
Well,
I mean, I hate to say it, but justice stenographers and interpreters at 6,500, we've left alone for years, even though they never get that high. You could probably carve $500 off there.
well, see,
There-
and then that brings me back to what I was saying is because I've highlighted places where I could trim 500 or 1,000 here.
Yeah,
Take
you
ten
could probably
thousand
get
out of,
out of traffic safety, maybe, a little bit more there too. Let me get back through that in a minute.
Well, like how about miscellaneous repairs at 9,000? Can that be, can you
Take,
trim that 1,000 off?
no, take 10,000 out of EA 5130, 4145 highway machinery repair.
Take 10K out of that?
Yeah. If that helps for my hiring of employment.
Then you can also reduce your grease and oil, Larry. How about taking 1,000 off of that?
Well. what was
I
the
wouldn't.
Prior year,
Go up, Steve, that's the thing about those lines. You're dealing with commodities. One year we're low, the next year we're.
right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Well,
just like I said,
Justice electricity, if they're going to be running out of a different location, will they need the 7,500? Can we drop that another 1,000?
Who's that? What was that?
Justice electricity, A1110 4,500 is justice electricity. We set aside 7,500. They never hit that usually. And they're not even going to be in that building, right, for at least a portion of the year. So we could probably shave $500 or $1,000 off that.
Here's where you're gonna get it. Okay. So so we're gonna go 10. I have to get back to that line now.
I think the problem, Sam, you have is they're still operating functionally. They're still operating during
Yeah,
the day
that's
out of
true.
there.
Yeah.
It's the nighttime is when they're really basically doing it. So they're still a functional unit.
Okay. I mean, you could still probably shave a little off that.
Okay, well, if you're gonna do it, in a general sense, but I think from a functional standpoint, I think they're still operating, full time. They
Right.
just need to hold the court in a separate facility.
Right. Well, I still think you could probably shave $500 off there. Let's see.
I got it. Hang on. I'm gonna get yelled at.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get yelled at a lot.
Well, we'll send them to Larry.
No, I won't do that. The only thing I know that these numbers aren't all in order. That's the other thing. I like things to be consistent and in order. Numerical order. I'm going to see what I've got at the end of this year and try to buy some of this stuff before the year is out.
Hey, Kate, can we do a boot drive or something? Like we can, where the board members can stand outside on a major highway and do a boot drive?
I will tell you what I tell each individual every time that I've asked with regards to fundraising for parks, fundraising for different organizations. You have a form of fundraising. It is called taxation, unfortunately, and that is what you're limited to. So no votes for you.
So,
And for the person who's going to ask me, how does the fire department do it? I am not touching that with a 10-foot pole.
it's a donation.
If he doesn't show,
Okay.
I guess we'll load up.
Donation. What I'm going to do so that you get the gist here, on the grant services side, I'm going to ask our consultant to assist a little bit more here on this end and save us a little bit of money here to help us, okay? So that's another discussion I'll have to have with that individual, and hopefully they don't laugh as much as you all laughed at with Mr. Sigma. So
Kate,
that,
could we
I
pull like $500 out of law books and supplements?
I think we're good here.
Okay.
I think we have just a little more than we need, but not much more than we need. But if that's, I think that we're good here.
Okay.
Okay.
I guess.
If you're all,
Do we have a rough tally as to how close we are to our number?
say, Steve. Well, we have.
Forgive me.
Yeah, we are because here's what happens in the budget. We have basically the other labor position, the highway department, budgeted for half a year. This will bring us to a full year, and the reason that we need the gap is because depending on who is hired, if that person, on their benefits package side of this, could be anywhere from, and I'm just going to use a number, okay, from 10,000 to 30,000. So, we don't know what that is. This should get us there. And if there are any other, I'll say, minor changes that are needed, I mean, Mr. Lamora may have to look at an overtime line or something, or some other line for 500 here, 500. You know what I mean? I think that I've made some concession here with some of this, and now I'm going to have to change a few things around, and it's okay. I mean, I'll plan it a little differently and expend a little differently, and we'll be okay. And like I said, I'm going to. So once we get our final numbers or close to it for the end of this year, early next year, some of these lines here that you see, we may end up setting aside money in those reserve accounts that we've already set up, or project accounts that we've already set up, and try to dedicate some money. That's why, our fund balance, when you're looking at the audit, the draft audit, and then the final audit that'll come out of our internal numbers here that we do outside of the Cusack and Company does for us, outside of the OSC coming in and auditing us, that you see like a reduction in fund balance, but you see an increase in these other funds, if you will, that are restricted. That's because we've been strategically and methodically putting money into project accounts and setting aside savings so that, this board and future boards will have money to rely upon to get the buildings up and buy property and do whatever else we have to do to get the town on solid footing for the next, hopefully 40, 50 years. So anyway, with those big ticket items, which is buildings and property, right?
So to repeat, this 29,985 will allow us to have Larry get a third guy on 1-1.
We should be, yes, this should give us enough, and I'll stand corrected, but it should give us enough.
And everything else. So basically, at this point, Mr. Supervisor, do we make a motion to amend the budget according to the exhibited spreadsheet and vote tonight? No. How does everybody feel? No?
Just give me a second, because I have to change the resolution for you to adopt the budget based upon the numbers that you've all just agreed on.
Okay.
So if we could just put a pin on what we do next, because I already queued all that stuff up for you.
Do we have side conversations while you're doing that?
Maybe if you, no.
Steve, you're
because we still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 resolutions in the consent agenda, six more to go.
All right, let's go.
All right, so let's wait for Kate, for Ms. McGill to put this together. But on that topic though, what do you, or on, I should say on topic, what did you want to discuss?
No, I was just gonna say, and still, you mentioned the DPW pool. So, I mean, that's even an option possibly for
It's
Larry
definitely
as
an
well,
option.
right?
It's
Does
gotta
someone
happen.
want to check my math for your total budget amount? So you're 26,184,777.
And that takes us still under the tax cap?
I have to look at the number, hang on.
Your previous number was 26,209,762.
And we're still on, yeah, we're under, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We're good. Yeah. We're good. What I was gonna say is that, what this budget does too, just to, go back through it again, is that in Rotterdam Junction with Water 3, compared to, we're looking at total tax. The average home out there is going to be about $10 more over last year. Water and Water 4 too, it's about $10. Water 5, if you're not in the sewer district, you're just Water 5, you're looking at about $19 difference. But if you're Water 5 and Sewer 2, you're looking at a lower, less than you paid last year. So, overall, same thing with like the Hamburg Street sewer line, that they're seeing another small reduction there. But that number could shift up and down just a little bit here and there too. And that sewer district also, just so you know, we are getting, and don't quote me on the numbers because I better not give you a number, a range. It's hundreds of thousands of dollars. I don't know how much exactly, but it's more than 100,000. So I'm gonna say hundreds of thousands back for money that we had put into reserves with the DOT for the project, Hamburg Street, for the sewer and water and everything. And the water money will go right back to water. The sewer money will remain within that district because, eventually we'll have to do some upgrades and some other things, and we're better off to keep that money there. If there's a way in the future budget to, reduce this a little bit, cost there, we can do that just like we do with all the other reserve accounts that we, our fund balances, that we have for the special districts, okay? So we're leaving fund balance alone. We're not, hopefully not playing with that at all. We're just reducing, that. So Thursday, we'll get the final, we'll get everything else put together so that you'll see it. And I appreciate your patience in this long meeting. For everything that's going on, I think that from a perspective for the homeowners and the town in particular, I think that we've done a good job, and I'm just crossing my fingers that we get through this and into next year in 2022. I keep saying that over and over again. I know I do, but it's top of mind for all of us. And I don't want to openly pray here, but I failed to mention, and I don't want to say anything of things that I don't have confirmation of, but I want to. So there's a couple other things going on out there. But I do know. I just want to publicly give our condolences to the Fernandez family, because Councilman Vince Fernandez passed away.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, he passed away last week. And
Yeah,
so our condolences to the Fernandez family and everyone, the kids, grandkids, everybody, and especially Mrs. Fernandez. She's a lovely lady, and just got a.
I never met him, but he was the guidance counselor at Honeston.
Yes.
When I was there.
Yeah, he served in the military. He was around for a long time. He did a lot. He was always smiling and laughing, it seemed, when I saw him anyway. So
Steve, I forget how old was he when he passed? Do you know?
Oh, I-
have an idea?
92?
remember, yeah,
I think.
Wow.
I
Wow.
think
Okay.
92.
All right.
he did okay.
Got it.
He and I had some spirited conversations in the past. I could say that, but he's he worked hard here, I think, for the public. And so did others, but we'll talk about some of these things. But again, our condolences to the family. So how's it look?
So I can show you essentially what your steps are. So I just want to remind you that you're currently on discussion to adopt the budget. So I would say that you want to subsequently either do an amendment to this discussion, and I can show you what that looks like. Someone can make a motion to
Within this
amend, or you
resolution.
can table. It's really up to you. I mean, tabling is, or
Let's just-
someone could just simply withdraw their motion.
So we
I
have a
can't
motion by
remember
Mr.
who made
Fisk,
the motion.
second by,
Right.
yeah, second by Ms. Miller Herrera. If you would withdraw your motions, and then we'll go into basically redoing this resolution.
Okay, so
Consider it
we're going to
withdrawn.
submit a new resolution tonight. Is that how it's going to work?
No, I can walk you through it, but I need you to withdraw or either to table this currently, just to keep it
What's
clean.
better, withdraw?
Yeah, because then you don't have to do a motion to table that then gets
Mr.
added.
Supervisor, I withdraw my motion.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so here's what you have currently. I'm going to share my screen with you again. So here is your, it's slow for some reason. Can you see this? Okay. So here is a resolution adopting changes to the 2021 preliminary budget, whereas the town board of the town of Rotterdam requires the public be provided with an opportunity to express views on the 2021 preliminary budget. And whereas the town board of the town of Rotterdam accepted by resolution the 2021 tentative budget as the 2021 preliminary budget on October 28th, 2020. Whereas the 2021 preliminary budget has been made available for public inspection in both the office of the town clerk through the town of Rotterdam website, www.rotterdamny.org, beginning on October 29th, 2020, and pursuant to the New York State Town Law, Section 108, a public hearing was held on November 10th, 2020, where comments by the public, both in favor and against the 2020 preliminary budget as compiled, both for and against specific items contained in the budget, were heard by the town board now upon the motion. And then you would go ahead and the town board of the town of Rotterdam hereby adopts the following changes, alterations, and revisions to the 2020 preliminary budget pursuant to the New York State Town Law, Section 109, Subpart 1. The 2020 preliminary budget shall be further revised to reflect changes, alterations, and revision in Schedule A attached here too. And then you just are going to subsequently attach, oh, I can't get into it because I'm in the,
I think it's a 2020 preliminary instead of.
Should be 2021.
it says in the resolution 2020.
Yeah, just, I think if you just change that, you'll be okay.
Yeah. please.
Section 1, right
Yeah,
there.
I see it. Okay,
There you go.
2021.
Thank you.
And then, all right, so we're gonna stop sharing again. And then I just need to click on, because it's all on the web and I can't switch it that way. And so then this will be your schedule that you've all worked on together here tonight. And so this would be the Schedule A that's attached here too. So if someone wants to move this, then that would allow you to modify that appropriately, and then
What about this one?
what about which one?
So I thought this is what you were putting together. So this one here is this is from Jackie, which has the those other, because they had to they left all those other lines the same. The engineer and so on. I thought you had. Did you not get this?
I literally have no idea what you're referring to.
Yeah.
Are there modifications then in addition to that? Okay.
They're in here, yeah. But this is, I think, I don't know if it's. Let me
Do you
just-
have it in an electronic format that we can share with the board?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Just got to get in here to go to share screen again. Oh boy, I thought that's what you were doing. I thought you were adding it to this, so I apologize. This is odd to me. Okay. Inbox. Boy. Okay. Let me go back to.
You don't have to add it to it. You can just attach it in addition to a Schedule A. If it's a $0 now.
It is. Yes, it does. Yeah, but here's the thing. But I think they should see it. So let me just make sure that I Get it on here, forgive me.
Is this something that you emailed to me?
I assumed when you were talking, and that was my fault. I apologize to everyone here, that you were adding it to this. And so since you're not, you didn't have it. So just give me a moment here to pull it up. And it's only a PDF, so it's not a,
Oh, is this the 6:13 PM email from today?
no. I'm going to forward it to everyone because that was my assumption that it was contained. I had sent it on this morning, and apparently it didn't get here. One of those mysteries. Uh, I'm almost there, guys. I'm sorry. Here we go. Here it comes, and I'm going to share it right now too. Oh boy. All right. So all this does is you can see it, I'm sure. So the town engineer position, I had it allocated across because before and you look at your budget, it's only contained on the A fund. Had not been allocated as I had requested across the water and sewer fund, so that was done. There is a modification here to so we have the part-time labor position that we put in for cleaning, basically 17. And then the custodial supplies and services, we had increased that because of COVID and contracts and so on, and the potential of having custodial services here for our buildings. This position, this is a buyout included in this position here. The billing inspector part-time, like I said, we got basically 1.5 with our 2 full-time. So that's there. The retirement lines were estimates, so those had to be, in medical line was an estimate. So those were all changed, modified. The positions here, what happened with this is that this is where all of the changes were made and funds moved around between the retirees and laborers and so on. So that's what this whole thing is here, as well as the dollars that you see within the preliminary budget for these positions did not have all of the buyouts and so on. So that's what's reflected here under highway, those retirees. And then again, the engineer positions, and I'm not sure what this is, so forgive me, that has something to do with something, I don't know what that is. And then that, again, the labor, oh, I know what that is, sorry. So that labor part-time position across the water funds as well has to do with DPW. That's what that is, moved a little bit in there. And then the water five retirement it was reduced a little bit. So you're going to see some other modifications there to the final, but we'll still be, with what we did here tonight, that decrease, because we didn't go up, we went down. Along with this, we'll be in line. We'll be fine. We'll be under the tax cap, and we'll be under everything a little bit. So I sent that to everybody. If you want to just take a quick look at it, but it is all positions. It's not, So we do have some numbers in there. And again, it's buyout. So even when you see a couple of these positions where you're thinking, well, we're not hiring somebody in that job, but there could be some funds set aside for the working out a title and buyout. Okay. I thought this was what you were, I'm sorry, I thought this was what you were working off of.
I haven't seen this before. So you want me to basically amend all the resolutions so that the math works, that you're gonna attach this plus the 2021 Schedule A that we just talked about together, and then based on that total net number, I'm now going to go back in to the final budget amount and amend it in that way.
Mhm.
Okay. I can't. I can't see what that number is because it's so small at the bottom. I couldn't write it down before it got smaller. So it's 86,000.
The majority of this number, if you look, if of all the things that are here, the majority of this number is the custodial services.
Yeah, I just need the number so I can do the
Okay,
math.
so
The resolution, that's all.
Original is 4.2.
That,
What do you need?
because your final adopted budget resolution includes the total amount of the budget. And so I modified that to remove the 29,985. So now I need to go back, undo that, and then put in the new number. So it's
86,179. 170.
179. All right, and then we're gonna minus. So then we're gonna subtract 29,985.
Yeah. And then, the other thing is that there, with the other early retirements that are out there, or potentially out there, the funds that are within the current lines for salary for these individuals that may opt. So we're talking about those that after, that are new, ones that we didn't have prior to, I'll say this week. The dollars that are contained within their salary lines are enough to meet the obligation for their salary should they remain, or their pay buyouts if they go. And there should be some money left over, hopefully, where we can, utilize that elsewhere. So, we're not talking about a lot of positions, we're talking about two, I think maybe three more people. So this has to do with, again, the majority of this is a wash, except for the really the general, because these other numbers are just moving a fund money to the special districts. $60,000 of it. Can I ask, is there a way that we can move on to the other resolution, since that resolution was withdrawn? Can we move on to the other ones while you're doing that?
I'll make a motion.
Let's do that. Let's move on to these other resolutions while we're
Yeah.
waiting.
Sounds good.
So, Ms. Marco, would you read the third resolution down? We'll go back to second one, if you will.
Okay, a resolution declaring lead agency for Sewer District 7, Extension 3.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, motion by Mr. Guidarelli. Is there a second, please?
I'll make the second.
Second by Mr. Christou. Anyone on the question? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Should we have the roll Let's call the roll. I
All
didn't
right,
hear. it.
Mr. Christo,
Yes.
Mr. Gitterelli,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera,
Yes.
Mr. Signor? Mr. Signor,
He was here and
is he there?
He's muted.
something
I had to
happened.
mute because I had background noise from my daughter. I didn't want you to hear the microwave and her cooking.
Mr.
ramen
Signor,
noodles, so- Yes.
Mr. Tomazone,
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, next resolution.
A resolution calling for the bids for chlorine gas.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Mr. Christo. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Gitterelli. Anyone on the question? And Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christo,
Yes.
Mr. Gitterelli,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera,
Yes.
Mr. Signor,
Yes.
and Mr. Tomazone.
Resolution passes. Next resolution?
Steve, did you say yes? I'm sorry.
Yes. Sorry,
Okay.
yes.
5 yes, okay. A resolution calling for bids for sodium hexametaphosphate.
Wow, you've been practicing that, Diane.
Outstanding, Miss Marco. Outstanding.
May I have a motion, please?
I'll make the motion.
By
I'll
Mr.
second it.
by Mr. Signor. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christo,
Yes.
Mr. Gitterelli,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera,
Yes.
Mr. Signor,
Yes.
and Mr. Tomazone.
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, the resolution passes. Next resolution, please.
A resolution authorizing the supervisor to enter an agreement for healthcare and dental services.
Can we have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Mr. Christo. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Gitterelli. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christo,
Yes.
Mr. Gitterelli,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera,
Yes.
Mr. Signor,
Yes.
and Mr. Tomazone.
Yes.
5 yes.
The resolution passes. Next resolution.
A resolution authorizing the supervisor to enter into a memorandum of agreement with CSCA.
Can we have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Mr. Christo. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
A second by Mr. Gitterelli. Anyone on the question? This has to do with the early retirement in the Senate. Okay, no one? Okay, Ms. Marco, please call the roll.
Mr. Christo,
Yes.
Mr. Gitterelli,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera,
Yes.
Mr. Signor,
Yes.
and Mr. Tomazone.
Yes.
5 yes.
The resolution passes. Now we have just a consent agenda for a couple of resolutions. May I have a motion, please?
I'll let somebody else make it.
Signor, or
I'll make the motion
Try
to
it.
accept the remaining resolutions as a
Let me
consent.
see if I can do it with that semi-Greek accent of his. Hold on a second. Mr. Supervisor, I make a motion that we move
obviously,
to
some people.
adopt the next
We already
two.
have the motion made. Would you like to
You got to
second?
second it.
I say, oh, I thought he's, oh, I'm sorry. I thought he looking for me to do it.
You made the motion.
You were too slow, Steve.
I'll second it.
Very good. So the resolutions have to do with budget transfers for this year and the town board minutes, adopting town board minutes from last meeting. So we have a motion by Mr. Christo, second by Mr. Signor. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, please call the roll.
Mr. Christo,
Yes.
Mr. Gitterelli,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera,
Yes.
Mr. Signor,
Yes.
and Mr. Tomazone.
Yes,
5 yes.
resolutions pass. We're almost there, and I'm sorry for this. I didn't.
All good.
Right, so your total amount in the previous resolution was $26,209,762. The new amount is $26,165,956, I
So we're
think.
still under. Yes,
mean, it was a net increase of 56,194 from
Yeah,
the
we're still-
original number.
But we're still under, because of the, because this 86 is taking into account current dollars within the budget. And then the remainder is part of the tax cap, so we still should be fine. And if there's anything that has to come out, we'll have to make another modification someplace. We'll have to do that after the budget passes. So we should be, we reduced, because these modifications come from Jackie within the tax cap, and we reduced. So we should be fine. Should be fine. All right. So now we have you just go back to trying to get out of this. Oh, I can't, right? I can't. As soon as she's done with the resolution, we can.
I'm done. You are, so if you look in your SharePoint, for the town board, what is currently contained then, and this is what takes so much time, is like the saving of the files, and then I have to modify it in the document that you can see, plus in the document that Dana will use to send to Diane subsequently, because that's actually the master file. So, so contained in your November 10th, 2020 file. So you're going to, someone needs to make a motion with respect to the document entitled 2021 preliminary budget changes, with the understanding that this, I'll just share my screen. So, Steve, I'm kicking you off here. Okay, so you're using this resolution, and whoever moves it is going to use the title that's contained in here. And then your Schedule A is going to be not this 2021 budget request, but this document here showing the net decrease, and then also Steve's edition of the November 10th budget modifications updated. Okay, so that's your amendment resolution. So if someone wants to move that, and I can put it up on the screen to make it easier for you. You want to do that?
Mr. Supervisor, I make a motion to adopt the 2021 budget according to, where is it? According,
Evan, wait.
You need to adopt the amendment before you can adopt the budget. So let me just put it up on the screen, and then you can just go from there. Okay.
thank you.
Mhm. Open it back up. Okay, so if someone would like to, I would, suggest that you move a resolution adopting changes to the 2021 preliminary budget as previously discussed.
Mr. Supervisor, I make a motion to adopt the changes to the 2021 preliminary budget according to the items previously discussed.
May I have a second, please? Motion by Mr. Christou, second, please.
I'll second.
Okay, second by Ms. Miller Herrera. Okay, is there any more discussion on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christou,
Yes.
Mr. Gitterelli? Mr.
You're
Gitterelli?
muted. You're muted, Joe.
Yes.
Mr. Gitterelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Thomasone?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay. does
Now can I
anyone-
read the next one? About adopting it? Kate?
That would be ideal, yes.
Okay. A resolution adopting the annual budget of the town of Rotterdam for the fiscal year of 2021.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mr. Christou. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Miller Herrera. Anyone else on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Gitterelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
And Mr. Thomasone?
Yes.
And
5
Mr.
yes.
Teddy? What about Mr. Teddy?
Ted?
You got the
Oh,
vote?
hi, Teddy.
You want to vote?
Oh,
No?
Hey,
yes.
Teddy, say I vote yes.
Show them Josie.
What you got there? Who's
Oh,
that?
Outstanding.
Oh, very nice. So that's 2 yeses. All right, Teddy and his friend. Motion carries.
All right. Okay, moving on. Anyone else this evening on any other topic?
Oh, I think we're good. Nice job on the court to the whole board. I think that this is a very healthy exercise. We collaborated, we agreed, we disagreed, but at the end of the day, everybody's intention was to do what's best for the town of Rotterdam. And I want to thank Larry for his input. Larry, at least we got you that third guy from day one, and we'll work on doing some other things to, improve opportunities for all the workers, including some sort of a program to motivate people coming in to get their CDL as well.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Mr. Supervisor, I move to adjourn.
Do I have a motion for adjournment by Mr. Christou? Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Gitterelli. All in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, thank you very much, everyone, for being here, and I appreciate your time and attention. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very
Thank you,
good.
Mr.
Thanks for all
Supervisor.
your work. Thank you.
Oh, my goodness. Nice meeting, guys.
We got there.